Hello and a very warm welcome back to the JLX podcast. It's me, Xander, and we have the wonderful Grace. And a very belated happy birthday for yesterday, Grace, my friend.
Thank you so much. Hi, guys.
Funny story. I actually found out it was Grace's birthday last week, so I put it in my calendar for this week so I wouldn't forget, except for the fact that I put it into the wrong day. So I was a day late. So this call actually started with me apologising to Grace for missing her birthday yesterday and wishing her a happy birthday for the day, which I had put it into my calendar. I'm sure you get these moments where you feel really proud of yourself. You're like, oh, I'm organised, I've done a good thing here. And then you just miss the
Like,
mark.
up, yeah. It's okay. You are forgiven. It's all
Thank you.
right.
I appreciate that. And I'm also yellow, as you can probably see if you're watching this on YouTube right now. I can't fix it. I've been trying my hardest, but I'm just yellow today. So um, uh, it is what it is. Nonetheless, we have a wonderful podcast coming to you today with a Q&A based on questions going into summer. And this is a very challenging topic because you'll see a lot of polarizing views on social media at the moment with a lot of people in the much more kind of mindful disordered eating and kind of mindset space very much being like on one end of the scale, everybody has a bikini body. It's a case of putting on a bikini and being in that body. And then you've got everyone, or not everyone, but another side of social media where people are talking about how to get into a bikini body. So I think what's important for us is that we are trying to draw a nuance between the two things, because I think that, just because someone says to you, hey, everyone's got a bikini body and you just have to put a bikini on, I don't think that solves the problem if you don't feel like you have. It's a bit like telling someone who's depressed, hey, you don't have a reason to be sad, like just be happy. And we both know that that's not the case. So what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and draw some Q&As from clients, and we're going to bring in some personal kind of nuance to it as well. So this is going to be a banging episode, and I think it's going to help a lot of people. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait to get started.
Let's do just that. I'll go first because I have a nice question. So Grace and I were chatting yesterday about how we do different things now to how we used to do them. And a lot of things that have come up in client check-ins for me at the moment, especially, has been people getting a bit concerned about holidays coming up, that kind of fear of people will be expecting me to be in a bikini. I expect me to be in a bikini, and I am not looking forward to it. And
Yeah.
so what I was hoping you could do, Grace, is shed a bit of experience that maybe you've had where you've booked a holiday, if you've had this experience, and then how you felt in the past versus maybe how you felt now. Because I know you're a big holiday fan these days, but maybe that wasn't always the case.
Yeah, so definitely I have changed a lot and my perspective has grown a lot since I used to be younger. When I was younger, very much like, even though, of course, I was excited for the holiday, there was always this amount of dread that surrounded it, mainly because I just was really concerned with, number one, how I was feeling on holiday, but more importantly, how I was looking, how I thought everyone else was going to perceive me. And I felt
Yeah,
a lot of pressure to look a certain way, um, especially like on the beach, at the pool, in a bikini, all of those things, because really you do feel very exposed and very, you're almost putting yourself out there, or you feel like you're putting yourself out there for people to judge you. So in the lead up to those holidays beforehand, I remember like I would be super strict with my diet, and not in a good way either. Like I really just tried to go and eat as little as possible in the lead up, which also didn't do a lot. Like I wasn't weight training at the time. Like I'm looking back to probably like over 8 years ago or so. Wasn't weight training at the time, wasn't really exercising at the time. Like, to be honest, I was doing like floor ab exercises, thinking that that was gonna make a difference, kind of thing,
sure.
and like body weight squats, and would kind of go into the gym and do like a little bit of cross trainer, a little bit of bike, and then if I was picking up weights, it would be really, really light weights, just to, well, what I thought was tone at the time. And then when I got on holiday, I used to constantly be looking in the mirror, body checking, seeing how I looked, how even like turning around and like sitting down and seeing, okay, well, when I'm sat down, like, what does my stomach look like? Like, does it fold over? All of those kind of things. And that was obviously just like through a lot of insecurity and just a lack of confidence, really. That
Mm.
was all coming from, and just like this huge fear of judgment from other people. Obviously, it's taken me a very long time to work on all of those things, because naturally you don't just get over them super fast. And now I feel like I have a lot more balanced approach to it. Like, don't get me wrong, of course there's moments here and there where I question myself and I worry about how I look and how I'm going to be perceived by others. But now, leading into a holiday, like if I were to do a cut leading into a holiday, then I make it very sustainable, very balanced. I make sure I've got enough time to do it in a very healthy way. And also, a lot of the times that I've been on holiday, I don't even bother now, because I also know that actually, wherever my body happens to be, like I remember a couple of years ago, I was actually in a gaining phase before I went. I was in a gaining phase like pretty much the whole of summer. And I was away on holiday for quite a lot of that time. And I kind of looked around, and actually I kind of realized like every single body is so completely different. And that's kind of what's beautiful about it. And also, like, I'm trying to think back now to all of the holidays that I've been on, and I could not tell you what another person actually looked like on holiday. So if I can't do that about anyone else, no one else is going to be doing that about me.
Mm.
And equally, exactly the same thought, like that's obviously in the long term looking back, but in the short term, when I've been sat around a pool, I've never gone and been like, oh, they shouldn't be wearing that, or like, oh my
Yeah.
god, the body, or like, oh, cover up, or anything like that. Like, I've never thought that. And so if we're never thinking these things, no one's ever going to be thinking those things about you either. And so it's just like through that learning of like, okay, let's try and build my confidence. Also, obviously, implement some more healthy habits in terms of my training, my nutrition, but then also like shift my mindset slightly
Mm.
on the thoughts. Like with time, that's obviously evolved a lot and helped me kind of get out of those unhealthy habits.
Yeah. I think firstly, thank you so much for sharing that. I always know that going back in time to these experiences, you can look on them very fondly, but it's also sometimes very challenging. So I appreciate it. And you mentioned a couple of things there. And I had just a question. Do you think it's a bit of a chicken egg situation, I think, but do you think that for you personally, it was changing your body that helped you to be more understanding of yourself? Or was it changing your mindset that helped you to be more understanding of the body that you have?
I think that's a really interesting question. And I think it actually they go hand in hand. I think you you can't have one without the other in a
Hmm.
way. Um, I put a lot of in for me in terms of the early start into my fitness journey. A lot of it went from being from the mindset of being as small as humanly
Hmm.
possible in any way I could physically do it. Like, I was just like, I will do whatever I need to do. I just want to be tiny.
Yeah.
Um, to the mindset of, oh, actually, like, weight training is really fun and I can actually build muscle, and I want to be strong, and let me challenge myself and see what I can do in the gym. And obviously through that, a bonus of that, and I can't sit here and say that my only motivations of going to the gym to begin with were to get strong, because that would
Yeah.
be a lie. Obviously I wanted to improve my physique as well, but I think they definitely go hand in hand. That as I started to switch my focus, like shift the focus of my training slightly, focus on eating more foods, on high protein, getting stronger, enjoying my sessions, doing workouts I actually enjoy, naturally my body obviously changed,
Mm.
and that helped me grow more confidence as well.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit of both of, okay, like, let's try and make this more healthy, in a sense of, let's try and focus on being stronger, being happier, being healthier, being more confident. And of course my body changed in that, but equally you could say that the changing of my body also came first, and therefore my mindset changed as well. They very much are hand in hand. I think that anytime you're doing something that is challenging yourself and also improving or bettering yourself, doing something really for you to help you grow, whether that's in your body, in your mind, in your nutrition, anything, that naturally is going to increase your confidence, increase your self-worth, increase your self-love as well, because really you're doing something for yourself, and naturally that is going to positively impact the way you feel about yourself, and therefore the way that you also feel like you're going to be perceived too.
Yeah, I love that last bit, especially when you said about how you feel about yourself. I feel like it's a transition for many people between the negative and the positive. So what the motivation is, right? I'm not going to the gym because I want to be as small as possible, and I'm not eating as little as possible to be as small as possible. So in my opinion, both negative motives. And I say negative motives because the aim is to reduce as much food, reduce as much weight, reduce as much, in a sense, you reduce as much life you have, because you know, if you're doing those things, you can't really go out and enjoy social occasions and things like that. And you change that to, I'm going to the gym because I feel much better. I'm going to the gym because I feel much stronger. As a result of that, I am hungrier. And as a result of that, I'm eating more. So you get into a more positive cycle where the body starts changing, usually in a more positive manner. And I use the word positive in a sense of it moving towards your goals more than it would do if you were trying to do the opposite. And I think the difficulty is, and this is where I've really changed my mind this year, probably more than I ever have before. I've always been really like anti like bikini body program kind of thing. But the more I think on these things, and I think it's really important to never have a view that's set without question, because else you don't have an opportunity to understand or learn from other people's perspectives. But I think the reason my view on this has changed is because you have to meet people where they are. So if we meet Grace from 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and we are telling that Grace, hey, look, the things you really need to do now are, you know, you need to be focusing on your long-term health. You need to be focusing on the getting stronger. You'd have been like, that's not a fucking concern of mine right now. Thanks very much. Literally. You know, you'd have been thinking, solve the fucking problem I have right now. And that is, I'm not looking forward to this holiday because bang, bang, bang. And I think that's where I've changed. I think it's very easy as a coach, and this is probably a mistake that I've made in my maybe in the way that I've produced content and things like that over the last few years, is that I've always tried to help people get to where I know they'll get to eventually, rather than meet them where they are. And that is, they think that. So if you're listening to this, you might be somebody who's thinking, I really want a bikini body because, you know, I want to feel more comfortable, I want to feel more confident. And so seeing somebody say things like, oh, you know, but training harder in the gym and things like that probably doesn't relate as much, because you don't see that as a concern right now. So that's probably something I've changed my mind on, to be honest. And I think that my morals haven't changed around it, because I know the reason that people would benefit from these things. But it's a little bit like going to Tesco's to buy a sandwich, right? You don't go into Tesco's and then all of a sudden they go, you can't have a sandwich because you don't eat a sandwich. What you actually need is the bread, the butter, and all these things to go over and make a sandwich. You think, fucking hell, I just want a sandwich. Just give me the sandwich.
But I actually completely agree with you on that. And I very much used to be with the whole mindset of it. Same with January. I think going into summer and January, they're the same.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same idea for people. And I very much used to be like, oh, like, for goodness sake, like, yay, I'm happy that people are getting into fitness, but come on, we know it's not going to last. And that used to annoy me as a coach, because I used to be like, oh, I wish there was something I could do about it. But just like you said, when it comes to people, we've got to meet them where they are. And if where they are is, okay, I've got a holiday coming up and actually I want to feel confident about myself, then especially I find that if a client comes to me with that intention, as a coach, it's now my duty and job to, number one, of course, help them work towards that goal that they want, but also try and teach them and guide them and support them as well, that actually they don't need to have this panic next year when it comes to summer. Because if they were to continue this, and hopefully we can teach them in a way that they love what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That then they'll want to sustain that for longer. And then number one, their results the year after going in summer are going to be 10 times better.
Yeah.
And number two, they don't even need to worry about it as much because they've got the foundations there that we can hopefully teach them.
Yeah, 100%. I agree actually fully with the January comment. And actually, what's interesting is that I changed my opinions on January a while back, where I thought I actually started encouraging clients to diet through January. So if we were going through gaining phases, I'd try and get them a month earlier. So like, let's start in September. You know, the summer's gone. Let's just get to work now. And then I would try and encourage them to mini cut through January, because previously I was like, the mindset of like, we're not joining this group of people who do this thing. However, if you actually use logic, if everybody else is doing that thing, all of a sudden it becomes so much easier. So if, for example, you and I were dieting and you said to me, do you want to go out? I'd be like, yeah, but I am dieting at the moment. You say, oh, no, but so am I. So we'll just pick somewhere that really works well for both of us. How about Nando's? I'd be like, fucking game. Cool, let's go. Whereas if, say, you know, you're dieting when everyone else is gaining, or you're gaining when everyone else is dieting, you want to go out and smash a 3-course meal at a lovely place, and everyone else starts, no, no, no. Like, so I think there is definitely something to be said for going with the tide and using the momentum of what everyone else is doing to support you in the goal that you have. It doesn't have to be that case all the time, but that's a really good point you've made. And it's certainly something which has now got my brain thinking of maybe that's why my opinions have changed towards that first summer bit. More than anything. But I think nuance is so important here. I was thinking about this before the call, and I do think that it's something I've noticed in the last few months of social media, is that a lot of people with phenomenal physiques are telling everybody else, like, hey, it's okay, just slap a bikini on. I think of all the people that's okay for, it's going to be somebody like you. Now, don't get me wrong, people with phenomenal physiques are still going to struggle with their mental health. I'm not saying that they wouldn't. I am, however, saying that they've probably been full cycle through that journey. So making statements like, oh, everyone's got a bikini body, just put on a bikini and you've got a body, I think demeans the struggles that those individuals are currently having, which is likely the struggles that that individual had at some point. And I struggle with that, because I think that you need to apply nuance to that. And if they don't feel like they're in a bikini body and that's what they want, what I think is important is to give them the result and give them and help them with that, but show them and guide them the way to a sustainable long term. So this doesn't become summer after summer, and every winter you don't go and gain 20 pounds and then have to lose it again in the summer, and so on and so forth. So again, something maybe I've changed my mind on a little bit, but I'm seeing it more and more often at the moment. It's kind of frustrating.
And I can actually speak on that completely, in terms of, number one, the fact that I'm a lot more self-aware now, but also the fact that I feel like I can speak from a point of privilege within that situation, because I've been in that point where I felt like my body was not bikini body ready and stuff, and now I've obviously worked a lot on my confidence, like I said, in order to get my body to a point, but also in general, even when I'm in a gaining phase, I obviously feel more self-conscious, but I am at a point within my confidence that I can feel okay wearing a bikini, for example, pretty much all year round. And that is very much from a point of privilege that I can say that, because I know that there's so many people out there who don't have that feeling. Even at the end of their cut, they don't have that feeling. So it's something that really does bug me as well, when, just like you said, people jump on social media with these incredible physiques and they say, oh, just chuck a bikini on. It takes a lot of time and effort. And also, what you don't see on social media is, yes, they're saying that now, but potentially yesterday they weren't feeling that, and tomorrow feeling that, but today they were. So I think it's a very easy thing to say, but actually got to look back into it and think, well, where is this coming from? What work did they have to put in first to get to this point, to be like, just chuck a bikini on? Because it's not as easy as that.
No.
And obviously we've experienced that with our clients, and we've had the privilege to be able to watch their journeys and help build that confidence as well. And confidence is on a scale. It's up sometimes and it's down sometimes. And it's going to be like that for everyone. Like, do not ever look at your favorite influencers and social media people and think their confidence, oh, look at them, their confidence must be up here all the time, because I can promise you, like, it's not.
Yeah,
it's going up and down all the time. They are still human.
100%. And we all have emotions, and it fundamentally is an emotion, right? It's something
Yeah.
that you have to work at. I think that's an important part. I think a lot of people think confidence is something you get when you get to a certain point. Confidence is earned through the things you do to get to that point. That's actually a really, really important point. Confidence is earned by the things you do to get to the goal. It is not given to you at the finish line. So if you think about all the client journeys you've been a part of, and I think about all the client journeys I've been a part of, not one single person has got to the end and every week in their check-in gone, I feel like a piece of shit, I feel like a piece of shit, I feel like a piece of shit, I feel like a piece of shit. They send those progress photos and they're like, oh, fucking amazing, I feel amazing, I'm just the greatest person on earth. Nobody does that. I think if I think about specifically a client I have in mind right now called Cherry, she's not really on a body transformation. I made a little word there. Yeah, at the moment she's doing something a bit different, but especially for her, her confidence is improving a huge amount because she's actually doing something that she knows aligns with her overall goal. And I feel that for many people, they think that getting that quote unquote bikini body is what gives the confidence, but actually what gives the confidence is the continued effort that goes in that aligns with the goal that was set. And I don't think enough people appreciate that. Confidence is part of the journey, not part of the result.
Yeah, I could not agree more with that.
I quite like that, actually. I'm gonna use that more often. Did you have any questions? Client questions. We'll bounce a few more.
Yeah, so I think one of the huge ones that I've been getting from my clients recently is all about okay, so we've put all the hard work in to get our physiques to where we want them to be for summer, but it's summer and I want to be able to enjoy it. So how on earth do I balance maintaining my physique, but also being able to go out and drink if I want to, or eat all the yummy food, go on holiday, enjoying myself, and really just balance a summer social life with their results.
This is something that happens every year. I think this happens for most people at most times. It's like, I've done the hard work, but what now? How do I actually? Because there's a fear, isn't there? There's that fear that says, shit, I've lost the weight I wanted to lose, but fuck, if I go and do these things. Because the thing I think a lot of people have to understand, and this is so, so important, when you go into a diet, you are eating in a calorie deficit. Right? Whatever you do, whether you intermittent fast, whether you go paleo, whether you go keto, whatever, it is putting you in a deficit. So the first thing you have to understand is when you go back to maintenance, you've got an extra X amount of calories to play with because fundamentally you're going to be at maintenance. Now, a lot of people, I think, assume that the behaviors they did during their dieting phase have to maintain. Now, we run exit strategies with all our clients to help them get from dieting into maintenance. And those exit strategies are basically an increase in food at a higher calorie level, but the same foods they're already eating. So typically you end up feeling far more satiated and almost bored of food because it's so much of the same food you were already eating, which is a really great place to be because it means that when you are then out of that 2 week window, which tends to be, I think if you see some research on this, that would be the 2 weeks where people reverse their progress the most. If you can see people through that, all of a sudden you actually have a capability to maintain the results you've got, enjoy the summer. Difficult part in all of this is that 2 weeks. And so whenever we plan diets, I always tend to tell people like you're in it for the 14. Like if it's a 12-week diet, it's actually a 14-week diet. If we don't have 14 weeks, then I'd make it a 10-week diet and a 2-week exit because your diet is only as successful as the 2 weeks after that. So if you have 10 weeks of dieting, you do a really great job, brilliant, congratulations. I wouldn't be applauding you until I see you at the back end of that 2 weeks because we all know it's easy to diet when you're in a place of fear. And you really need to feel better. You need to feel like you can take your clothes off on holiday and walk around a pool and things like that. Like I'm not female, but I feel those pressures as well. And sometimes more because although when I go on holiday, nobody knows I'm a coach. I know I'm a coach. I know that I have a stereotype. And no matter, again, like this is actually something I probably could relate to very differently, but in a similar way. Like I know that my body doesn't reflect my capabilities as a coach. But when that is ingrained into you for so many years, and like I've been a part of this industry now for 12 years, 13 years altogether, I've coached for nearly 10. You can't avoid these things. So like I like wearing a pair of budgie smugglers on holiday just because it's funny, like genuinely because it's funny. But it only takes one photo. It takes one photo that somebody's taken of you that you weren't expecting, weren't posing for, was in bad light, and it would just fucking wreck your confidence. But I've kind of gone on a sidetrack there. My point that I was trying to make was that when you go through the extra 2 weeks, that 2 weeks is the buying power you have to maintain the result. And so when you are, I think the best way of putting this actually is when you are looking at a holiday, let's say, for example, don't plan to diet all the way into that holiday, because you will then feel the need to maintain everything you just did. And when you go on holiday, you're going to end up having a lot of water retention straight away. You've got travel, you've got different foods, you've got heat. So what will happen is, even if you go and you do nothing different, you are going to weigh 3-4 kilos more sometimes just in water weight, but you'll also feel bloated. You'll feel, your joints get a bit swollen. You just generally feel quite puffy. So you want to get that out the way before you go, because that is enough. And I've seen this happen so many times. That is enough to send people spiraling. They'll go, well, I've already fucked it. I missed day one and I look terrible. I feel terrible. Brilliant. But it's only because you've increased the carbohydrate level, which would do the increase in water anyway. So I think the really important thing is planning this all backwards from the holiday, not planning it for the holiday, because you'll then be able to get out of that diet, secure the result, and then go and enjoy everything. I feel like people are too quick to be like, but it's two more weeks. I could lose 2 more kilos. Trust me, you will gain those 2 kilos back very much quicker if you try and push it into the holiday. So I would just say that finish dieting before you go, give yourself an opportunity to get back out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in terms of balancing like the day-to-day social plans of, we've got I guess in England, we love a pub garden. We love one in summer. So if it's that kind of thing, and I know there's obviously, especially from friendship groups, kind of like what Xander was saying about, if in January you're both dieting, it makes it very easy because you and all of your friends are dieting together. But in summer, quite a lot of the probability is probably that you are going to be wanting to maintain your results while also enjoying yourself, and possibly people in your social circle will not be having that approach and potentially are having that fuck it mentality. So how do you manage your own goals with also not feeling like you're missing out as well? So I think in that sense, one thing that I very much say is, what I would try and do is maintain your non-negotiables, and your non-negotiables will be different for everyone, but in a sense, it should be your training. So you still know that however many sessions you've committed to in your week, you still go and you do your absolute best with it. If you know that your whole weekend is going to be full of drinking and eating, but you know you've got your 4 sessions to get in, you get them in the Monday to Thursday. You get them in Monday to Thursday, and then you don't need to worry about it. Don't try and leave them to the weekend so that you've got legs on Sunday and you've got Bulgarian split squats in there, but you were drinking the night before and you can't make your session. Don't be stupid, basically. On another sorry, go for it.
All I was going to say is I think the difference is that people, and this is a big thing as well in like goal setting elements of things, people will be far more likely to do the sessions when they fear not getting a result than they fear having the thing. So what I would do is say, don't live in fear. There's no benefit to living in fear around these things, but there's a massive benefit to understanding why you did those things in the first place. So learn to love the process, because the process is there to stay. And if you don't carry the process forward that you were doing, you cannot expect to maintain the result. And the calories are the things that change. The food freedom is the thing that changes in terms of more calories, more food freedom and things like that. But the training you should be loving anyway. If you don't love your training, maybe you should change it. If you aren't loving the getting out and feeling good for going for walks, if you take them away, emotional eating is going to be much, much more likely to happen, because all you're going to do is replace the feeling you get from going for walks and getting out, feeling good, with food, the enjoyment of food and things like that. So I do think, just to compound on the point that you've made, it's so important to understand the process is so important for long term. So if you do not enjoy the process that takes you towards your goal, you're going to have a really, really hard time maintaining those results once you've achieved that goal and then want to go on to the next thing. But sorry for interrupting you. Please carry on.
No, go for it. And also on that point as well, which might, to some people, it might seem quite obvious, but it's something that we both hear quite a lot, is that your training should not change depending on your goal. So whether you're gaining, whether you're in the fat loss phase, whether you're maintaining, you should still be training the same way. There's no, oh, I'm in a fat loss phase, so let's all of a sudden do 100 reps and lightweight kind of thing.
Yeah.
Still train super hard, push yourself with high intensity, close to failure, throughout whatever you're doing, and that's going to help maintain and also grow a lot of muscle throughout the process. So like Zach said, though, you have to enjoy it, because if you're forcing yourself to do something for your 12-week dieting phase that realistically you won't be able to maintain past that point, of course you're not going to be able to maintain your results.
Yeah, actually that comes into like the secret cardio people as well. Like we'll always have clients who do it because people, I'm sometimes guilty of doing it. Like I'll be like, oh, I've got like 4,000 steps to do, and I'll be like, it's pissing down the rain. Actually, what I'll do is, I know Katie's going to the gym. I'll just join her. I'll just go on the treadmill, but I'll crank the treadmill up. Right. The difficulty with doing things like that. So if you're following a plan at the moment, if you go outside of that plan and that plan gets you results, you have to consider what you have done also got you those results, because I've seen this happen. In fact, I was chatting to a lady on Instagram recently who said that she was really struggling with regaining weight after she'd finished her diet. And I said, okay, well, what have you been doing? And she said, well, I've increased my calories by the usual 400. I think she said that she was in the deficit. And I've reduced all my cardio and I've stopped doing classes. And I was thinking, wow, okay, well, hang on a second. Not only have you taken the 400 calorie leap, but you've also then reduced all of the expenditure level. So give or take, like she may have just actually changed her calories by 1,000 a week or so. So if you are on a plan and that plan isn't getting you results despite you doing everything required of you to get results, you need to modify the plan slightly. It might be a reduction in calories. It might be an increase in cardio. Who knows? But don't go and add random things, because it's hard to track that as a data point to know what you then need to do the other side. And I do believe this is a mistake people make, because they then go back to maintenance. They stop doing those extra bits because they've got their goal, and then all of a sudden they're gaining weight at the rate of knots. And they're thinking, well, why am I doing this? You're doing it because you've stopped doing the secret things you were adding in. Or, for example, if your calories are set at 1,500 and 2-3 nights a week, you're like, right, I'm just not going to have my pasta with my bolognese. Save yourself 150, 200 calories. What you've actually done is you've not stuck to the calories. So the result that you've got was not based on the process that was set. So when you then go into maintenance, obviously it's so much more difficult. And I feel like a lot of people trip themselves up. They get a great result, but they followed a bit of a rogue process that's not that easy to change in order to then put them back to maintenance and enjoy that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I've had it before with clients saying, well, okay, so now that we're going to maintenance, it means we don't need to do as many steps, right? Or even just being a little bit more relaxed with their steps. Which makes sense, of course, when I find that dieting phases, people have a lot more laser focus. Obviously, they're working to control.
100%.
Maintenance, that's the beauty of maintenance. So you can be a lot more flexible. But what happens is you obviously put your calories up to maintenance. But then if all of a sudden you are super relaxed on your steps, of course, you're probably going to be in a surplus then. And then you're wondering why everything's not going to plan. So I think that's a fantastic point that you made, Xander, with that.
Awesome. So another question we discussed just briefly before we jumped into this was people who are looking to make a change to their physique, who would be quote unquote, I really don't like the term, but it's a term everyone uses, so we'll go with it. So if you are quote unquote feeling skinny fat at the moment, what would you tell people now we're kind of 12, 15 weeks out from the peak of summer? What would be, if you could give, let's try and condense this. If you could do 3 things with that person, I'll give my 3 things. I'm going to put you on the spot first. You can go first. What were the 3 things that you did? I'll try and make mine different to yours, just to play devil's advocate, maybe. Have a bit of fun.
Okay, love this. So the first thing that I would implement straight off the bat is some kind of resistance training. So the reason for that is often the reason that people are feeling that skinny fat is because they don't have enough muscle mass underneath to create that shape. So the whole idea of tone, like lots of people say they want to feel toned and lean. What that literally is just having enough muscle mass underneath our skin and fat.
Yeah.
So that it pushes through, it creates that kind of harder look to our bodies. And that will, like, even if you were to stay the exact same weight as you are right now, adding in that resistance training, building a little bit of muscle would automatically give you a little bit of definition and therefore not make you feel so loose in a sense, I guess.
Love that point.
That would be my first one. The second thing I would say is steps. So just going to put that one there, is that lots of people are living very sedentary lifestyles. So they're really not moving a lot. They're not kind of doing enough activity. So even if you were to increase your steps by like 2,000 a day, let's say, like, you don't need to suddenly jump up to 10,000 if you're only doing 3,000 steps every single day. But if you're doing 3,000, like, for the next week, try and do 4,000, week after 5, week after 6. When that feels comfortable, then you can just slowly build it up. And that will also naturally help with your physique a little bit. Obviously, though, like we said, it's not, you need to have that with the resistance training. I think resistance training is just number one. And then the final thing I would say, and it goes hand in hand with resistance training, is increasing your protein goal. So I can, unless you are huge into the gym or for whatever reason you just happen to eat a very high protein diet, majority of people are not eating enough protein. And even in the sense of, they go, oh, but so I have this all the time where lots of my clients will come to me to begin with and they go, but I have a protein shake. And I'm like, okay, so that's probably max 30 grams of protein within your day. Speaking in terms of women, we kind of need to be roughly, in an ideal world, between, let's say, 115 to 150 grams of protein.
Yeah, I agree.
Every single day. So that 30-gram protein shake is it's barely making a dent in your protein goal. So automatically, by increasing your protein within your diet, not only is that going to obviously highly benefit the resistance training that you're also adding in, because that's going to help build your muscles, but also protein is just absolutely phenomenal just for all things recovery, but also it has a higher thermic effect, which means that when you're consuming protein, you're not actually taking on all of those calories that you're eating. So you actually burn off through digestion, can't speak, some of those calories that you're eating. So actually you get a better payoff for your calories as well.
Nice. Stolen two of mine there.
I'm so sorry.
Right. I said I'd play devil's advocate. So I will try and think outside the box here. Okay. So if I had somebody who felt that they were, quote unquote, not that I like the term, skinny fat, and they had 10 to 15 weeks into summer, wanted to reshape themselves, what would I do? This is very much devil's advocate. I would increase the calories. I would have a look at where they are. And 9 times out of 10, people who struggle with these types of feelings about themselves or their physiques typically have done diets where they've not trained, but dieted really hard. So those kind of fad diets, those kinds of things where people have put their heart and soul into either cardio and super low calorie diets, things like that. So what's happened is that, like you said in your first and I think third points, there's no muscle growth in any of this. And I always like to use the analogy that muscles are like balloons that sit underneath the surface. The more you work them, the more they get pumped up. And if you know, this is actually a bit of a harsh analogy, but you know, when you get a balloon that's not been pumped up, it looks a bit saggy and it looks a little bit like wrinkly. That's kind of what we're struggling with, right? The minute you pump some air into that thing, it becomes tight and taut. So what we're looking to do is, how do we pump some air into our muscles so we get that nice, firm, toned, quote look that you guys are after? Well, I think a lot of the time it comes down to the fact that you've not grown any muscle, you've just tried to lose a lot of fat. And in doing that, you've actually likely lost muscle, and not necessarily lost the amount of fat you would hope. So the thing we need to do now is, how do we flip that? Now, if you only had 15 weeks, I really don't think that you'd make a huge, maybe at 15 weeks you might, but 10 weeks, if you had 10 weeks, you wouldn't make a massive dent in that physique if you tried to diet more through that. I think if you're an adapted person, so someone who's had calories at a lower level for a longer period of time, you can't go any lower. Like, we wouldn't do that. It makes no sense. So I would go higher. I might even reverse them. I might even say, right, I'm going to put you on higher calories. We're going to train fucking hard, and we are going to try and do this the other way, because it's the one thing they may not have tried, and it would at least bring them some muscle tone. Interestingly, I have a couple of clients at the moment who have done this with, and it's a long-term thing. It's not like a 10-week thing. This was like a 5-6 month thing. But I think if you were aggressive and you really worked at it, if you were really keen to make that change, I think in 10 weeks you could probably make a big dent in at least how you look and felt. The second thing is, and I don't know if I can say this because you kind of said this, I would look at, go on, I can see you.
No, I was going to say I've got a fourth one that I can give to you.
No, I'm not borrowing a fourth one yet.
Okay,
Add it at the end, because I might have it. Have some faith.
I think you've semi discussed it. So
right. Okay, you can keep it as your bonus round.
Okay,
my second one is going to be mindset. I'm playing this one a bit close to the bone because I know you took training, and I can't use that. So I'm going to say mindset. I would work really hard. I would set them. I'd make sure they sent me loads of form videos, because I want to see that they can perform the movements well, safely, etc. I want to see what their interpretation of training near failure is.
Agreed.
Because if they've got great form, but they train like just pathetically, for want of a better term, then the good form we can put to great use. And I can be like, right, you're currently hip thrusting 30 kilos. I have this genuine belief that most people in their lifetime should be able to hip thrust about 150 kilos. And someone could argue that point with me. I guarantee you everyone is capable of that. If you're an able-bodied individual, I genuinely believe that you are capable. I've had clients weigh 45 kilos be able to do it. That's triple body weight and some. So I do think it's definitely able to do it. So I think the thing I would definitely do is I would change the mindset around training and our views on it. So I would say, right, by the end of this 10 weeks, I want to hip thrust at 100 kilos. I want this at 130 kilos. I want a leg press that's at 180. Now, don't get me wrong. We're never going to compromise form, and we're never going to compromise likelihood of injury and things like that. I am only trying to extract what they can probably already do. And I am trying to do that in that period of time, because these people would likely have always focused on their body and what it looks like. And I'm trying to change that into what their body can do and what it performs like, because at least then when you go away, you won't be hyper focused on what you look like, but you will be more focused on what you can do. Maybe you go swimming and you're like, oh, I feel great after that, rather than sitting on the side of the pool being like, shit, I better not sit down too much because all my rolls will come out, or anything like that. So I think the second point would definitely be mindset into training. My third point, this is hard. My third point, and I feel pressured because you have a fourth point, and you're smirking. Right.
My fourth point is very much something you've mentioned, but it's just kind of going off of it.
Feeling the pressure now. I'm going to say my third point. My third point would be carbohydrate distribution. I'm really clutching at straws here. And the reason I say carbohydrate distribution is because if we're going to increase the calories, you're not going to necessarily want, if you're the person I'm thinking of, you're probably going to be scared of carbohydrate. You're probably going to think that's the reason you got fat in the first place. So I would increase carbohydrate in and around training, because it would give you more muscle pump. So as much as I want to change your mindset towards training and drive more focus there, if we can get those muscles blowing up more through the use of carbohydrate pre and post training, I do believe that you will feel the pump. Your muscles will feel bigger, they'll feel tighter, which some people at first sight panic a lot about, because jeans feel tighter. But if you had no idea of why they were tighter, and you just had blind trust that your glutes had grown, you'd be fucking chuffed by that, wouldn't you? Because what you might notice is that they might feel tighter on your butt, but they'd be loose around the waist. But no one looks at the waist, they just panic because they're tighter around the glutes, for example. So I think the carbohydrate point, distributing that, growing a faith in that it's a very, very helpful, arguably one of the most helpful macronutrients for how the shape of your physique looks, I would go with that. I would definitely drive the fear out and drive the pleasure of carbohydrate in. Because let's be honest, I've just had a massive bowl of porridge and I love it. I feel good. I've had my banana, which, by the way, about 3 weeks ago, I realized that did you see the post I put on my story? I realized because what I do is I open my banana halfway and I get a knife and then this is because I'm fucking lazy, right? Actually, I call it optimizing. I cut it in the banana skin so I don't have to get a board dirty. And then I just flop it into my porridge bowl and then I pour on some like frozen raspberries.
Right.
However, the other day I did it and I only had enough frozen raspberries for the first half of my bowl. So it basically looked like I made a massive penis with a load of raspberries. It was actually it was very funny.
I do remember seeing this story.
Yeah, it made me laugh.
You coming out.
Oh, do you know what? I thought I'm going to have to post this. There's going to be other people who find this funny. I probably got a few head shakes, but a few people did send me a little laughing emoji, so I'll take that.
I love that.
Hit me with that fourth point.
So the fourth point is very much leading off of yours. And I think in terms of like, if someone's listening to this and potentially they're not interested in being coached by us, then going, obviously,
why are they listening to the podcast?
Come on, guys.
Yeah, come on. Damn,
I want to be a coach, please.
Yeah.
We'd love to work with you.
Exactly.
But if for example, you're thinking about doing this solo, doing it by yourself, then almost a slightly less scary version of what Xander's first point was, which was obviously upping the calories. I would say the first thing, number one, if you're feeling this way and you want to be looking off and feeling your best for summer, you absolutely should not be in a deficit. So at the very least, I was going to say you should be at maintenance. And that will give you far, far, far better results if your training is on point, if your protein is on point as well, and if you're therefore eating maintenance calories. It's going to feel so backwards, so against what you're doing. But please, please, please trust in us when we say we've done this 100 times, and that will bring your physique. It's called, you guys might have heard of body recomposition, and it will bring your physique to it will look transformed. But 100%. You don't have a strict diet. You get to enjoy a little bit more food freedom, and you're training really hard, feeling really empowered, really strong, and really confident that actually that would benefit you hugely.
On that point, I did a podcast last week on how to work out your maintenance calories. So if you're on Spotify, scroll down, because it's super quick, super easy. Just go there, listen to that podcast, and I talk about how to do it so you can work out all the different types of calories. And Grace said we've done this a million times. I also did a podcast a long time ago about how I come back from surgeries. So the first thing I do when I start training post-surgery, it's really tempting to start dieting, because obviously some of the surgeries I've had like 8 to 9 months rehab, which means typically I do recomp in the negative way. So I tend to lose a bit of muscle and gain quite a bit of fat. And it's so tempting when you start to be like, right, that's it, I'm going to go diet. I'll diet, so I need to get rid of this and I'm ready to go now. But it's never the right decision. And it's always the best decision to build a solid start point by building that muscle back up, getting good feelings in you before you just go, right, I'm just going to diet, I'm just going to diet, I'm just going to diet. So Grace is 100% right. I couldn't agree anymore. There are plenty of podcasts we've done on the past resulting in the things we've discussed. So check them out. And if you're not sure where to find them, drop me a message and I'll help you, because I've got a pretty good idea of where I might find one. Grace, thank you so much for your time today. I think that's a really nice place to wrap this one up. Any final thoughts for anyone?
I just don't think so. I think just mainly just focus on bettering yourself, improving yourself, and naturally doing all of those different daily habits, part of your routine, that automatically is going to make you feel so much more confident in yourself, and just feel so much better, basically.
I love that. I love that. Folks, as always, if you are listening to this and your friends, family, or colleagues are struggling with the same things, please drop it over to them. You know, we always say this, we'd love to help more people. And even if they listen to this and it changes their mind and it gets them in a better place for their holiday, the least we can do is help some people enjoy their holidays. And of course, if there is anything you have questions wise, you can hit me up at Xander_JLX, or you can hit Grace up at Grace Petrie. It is, yeah, nailed it. Bang. I actually, for the first few times I did that, kept getting my underscore wrong. So, sending people to the wrong place. And of course,
Grace Petrie PT.
Yeah, it's easy. And of course, if you are somebody who's looking for help with your journey, we would love to support you with that. Again, you can hit us up through the same channels and we can talk to you about how we can help. Folks, a pleasure as always. Grace, a big thank you to you. And guys, we'll see you soon.
Bye, guys.